Hi there, Lori Ehlke here. I wanted to do something that would work for Holy Week, something that would work for Good Friday especially. And so I was thinking of different ideas, and one of the ones that I've seen and have enjoyed actually painting before is a picture of Jesus, kind of a silhouette of Jesus with the lion in the foreground, showing Jesus as that Lion of Judah. We always hear about him being discussed as the lion and the lamb, so the sacrificial lamb, but then also that powerful lion that conquers death and Satan and sin. And so the painting that I did for today is showing the lion, of course, in the foreground, and then Jesus' silhouette with the kind of the gold in the background. So this was done with watercolor. You could do it with any kind of paint though, or you could try drawing it as well. Hopefully you enjoy this, and I hope you have a good Holy Week if you are celebrating Holy Week as well. All right, thank you so much for watching, and please enjoy. I'm going to start off with a kind of a yellowish goldish color, and I'm just going to use this to draw my main shape. So I'm going to start off with a line like that. It's kind of like a zigzag, and it's going to come to about halfway through the paper, and then I'm going to go almost straight down, a little bit at an angle here. It'll curve back in like that, and then I'm going to continue using my golden color here, and I will add another line that kind of follows this line. It'll be back this way. I'll leave that like that, and then we'll kind of curve down like that. Then the top of the lion's face is going to be a little bit more furry here. So I've got this main line here. I'm going to add some kind of fur-like brush strokes here to show where the top of the hair is, or the mane. And then that'll kind of take up this whole section over here. Okay, so that's kind of my outline. This also is going to have some fur, which is why I didn't complete it. I can kind of make some of those marks like that. Okay, so I'm going to stop with that for now. And I'm going to do a wash of kind of a golden yellow that will go into a little bit of orange. So I'm going to just get this area wet right by the lines I just drew. And it's okay if they kind of bleed into the lines that I just made, because I'm going to go over those later anyway. But I'm going to get this whole side of my picture wet with just clear water. And then I'm going to start right next to the lion's face with a nice bright yellow. And kind of work out from there. I want it to be real vibrant. And then I'm going to switch to more of a golden yellow. Or if you have orange, you could maybe add a little bit of orange in here. And then I'm going to switch to a little bit more of my red as I get towards the outside edge here. And I can always add a little bit more yellow if I want it to be more orangish red. I want the blend to be a little bit more subtle, so I'm going to kind of go back in and smooth out the blend so it's not quite so strong of a line. And we'll leave that like that. All right, I'm going to switch back to my finer brush and start working on some of my details here. I'm going to go with a really small brush right now. We'll get the eye mapped out. So the eye should be close to this little bump here, not too far below. I'm going to start by just making a real skinny line that kind of copies that line like that. And then I'm going to bring the top part back like that. So it almost looks like a TP or the top of a triangle. And then I'm going to curve the bottom like that to make the eye. And this line right here can go down pretty far. So that's kind of where that would go. I'm also, while I'm working with my small brush here, I'm going to kind of map out where the nose would be, which the nose is right at the end here. So I'm just going to make a line, and I want to be careful, I guess a little bit, because this can bleed right out into there. If it does, it's not the end of the world, but I don't want a ton of bleeding right now. I'm going to go ahead and curve this down like that and make the lion's nose just with, it's a blue and brown mixture. And then the mouth I've already drawn in. I'm going to lower it just a little bit. So it'll be right down here. And right now I'm getting a lot of Lion King vibes. Simba looking out over Pride Rock. But obviously this will change by the time I'm done here. We'll make it a little different. Okay. So yeah, now that I've got just kind of that main idea in there, I'm going to go ahead and work a little bit more on the mane back here. I am going to go ahead and put an indication of where the ear is, which is going to be kind of right about in here. I'm just going to put a curved line to show about where that is, so that when I do the hair, I remember not to go too crazy next to the ear. And now I'm going to work on kind of giving that main texture in there. So I want it to be kind of a golden color. I'm going to go with the yellow ochre. And I'm going to try just to use the side of my brush here and get kind of a rough brush stroke going on. So the paper that I'm using is 140-pound paper, and it has kind of a texture to it. So by using the side of my brush and kind of just scraping it along the paper, you can see it leaves some of the white marks, and I like that. So I'm going to try to kind of keep those showing for now, at least. We'll see if I keep using them later. I'm going to start adding some of the mane that goes up right next to the face and then pulls back. I'm going to mix a little bit of burnt sienna in with my yellow ochre just to make it a little bit darker, but I still want to kind of use the same scraping motion that I did before to get that in there. I'm going to do the same thing on the top here, so yellow ochre, some burnt sienna. Really get a nice big mane going on here with this lion. Bring it up, scrape it across. The more paint I use and the less water, the darker and richer my colors are. So I'm basically going to be kind of going in over and over again and adding a little bit more of the rich, bold colors to it. You always start really light with watercolor, and then I want to get darker and darker as I go. And areas are still wet, they'll just kind of blend together. If they're dry, it'll give you more of this effect up here. So I kind of want both. I want to play around with some different effects here until I get a mane that's somewhat believable. So for the ear, I'm going to try to use a different technique. I'm going to just do a smooth brush stroke. And I want it to get darker as I get towards the middle, so I'll move into some darker brown so that it definitely looks different than the rest of the mane. And I'll darken some of the rest of the mane later. I'm going to go ahead and look at the face now. I'm going to use some of the same shades I did with the mane, maybe mix a little bit of the darker brown in places, and basically just use a little bit of a different technique than how I painted that so that they look a little bit different. I'm going to start with kind of just a smooth wash here. I'm using a little bit more water so that it flows nicely. And again, if I blend in with this, it's not the end of the world because I am going to add something right next to the face of the lion, but I don't want to get too watery by my edges. So I'm just trying to keep it light. And then while this is still wet, I can go in and add some shades and tones and colors. So I'm going to start with some gold. I'm going to add a little bit of gold up here kind of by the cheek and a little bit towards the top. And then a little bit right in here by the nose. I'll also just kind of dab some gold along here above the mouth. I'm going to switch to my burnt umber color and add some darker brown kind of down here, coming in off the face, and kind of connect it under the chin, connect it up to the mouth. I'm going to go a little bit close to the mouth, but I want to leave this area light because that's quite a bit lighter. I do want this to look like it's connected to the hair, so I don't mind if I go a little bit into the hair too. I'm going to use the same color in here, right under the eye. And then it's going to go up to the top as well. Kind of connect some of those other ones. I'll add a little bit of the burnt sienna above the nose. And then kind of make that line a little bit stronger here along the top. I think I'm going to let that dry for now, and I'll come back to it. I'm going to work a little bit more on the mane and kind of build up my darks. So this time I'm going to mix burnt umber and burnt sienna, get some of my darker darks going. I'm trying to do a little bit more paint and not a whole lot of water. And again, I'm going to lay my brush sideways and just kind of try to scratch some paint out of it so that it's not too smooth. I want it to be rough, more rough in texture. I do want it to be quite a bit darker down here, so I'm going to go ahead and darken this up a little bit just to give it some shadow. And then I do want the corner area to be a little bit darker too, so I might even work kind of backwards a little bit to get this a little bit darker. especially kind of connecting it like behind the ear. If I want to go darker yet, I can always add a little bit of blue even, and that'll get quite a bit darker with the mane. Okay. I'm going to let that dry, and then I will come back and add some more details. All right, so my background is mostly dry, so I'm going to go ahead and try to work on the next part. The next part is to make the portrait profile of Jesus's face. So I'm going to start with the nose. And I'm going to do a diagonal line that sticks out a little bit from the lion, and then it's going to kind of curve like this. So I'm going to have it come back in, and now I have a nose here. From the nose, I'm going to add kind of where like the mustache or the lip would be. So I'm going to draw that in, and then under that I'm going to add a beard that kind of sticks out a little bit. And while that's all wet, which I want to keep working while this is wet here, I'm going to get right up close to the lion and do some negative painting, which means I'm painting around the lion's face. So I'm going to connect those two. Okay, so that's kind of the main part of the face here. I'm going to go ahead and create the eye area, which would be just kind of a little crease that goes back out here, like that. And then I'm going to curve the head back like this for now. I'm going to go ahead and fill all that in. Again, I'm trying to work kind of quickly so that this doesn't dry. I'm using my two browns, my burnt umber and burnt sienna right now to fill that in. And again, negative painting around the lion's face. And hair. I'm going to fill all that in and go ahead and kind of connect this underneath the lion's chin. I'll bring it back just a little bit. And then again, negative paint near the lion's fur here. All right, to make this look more like Jesus, I'm going to go ahead and add some thorns coming out. So I'm using just the tip of my brush. You can even add kind of like a band of the crown. I'm going to try to create some smaller ones that are a little bit wider, some that are a little bit thinner. I'm widening some of these up at the end so that they don't just look like needles. trying to have them come a bunch of different directions. So that it looks believable. I feel like that there's a little bit too much room here, so I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit more right here so it doesn't look like his neck is sticking out quite so far. And then I'm going back and doing some negative painting, which is painting around the lion. Add a little bit more kind of up in the hair too. And there we have the portrait of Jesus. I'm going to now go back to the lion and add some details around the face. I'm going to start with the eyes, and I'm going to go in with that dark blue and brown. And go ahead and make some more detail there. With the eye. Darken that area. I'm also going to add some of the dots that go along in the face here. And some rose. And darken this area up a little bit. And darken this area a little bit too. To give it a little bit more shading. I'm going to blur these a little bit so they're not quite so perfect here. Maybe even add a little bit of brown in there with them. And kind of connect them a little bit to the dark area that's on the face. I'm going to throw a little bit of yellow into the eye of the lion. And then I'll add the little eyeball once it's done, once it's dry. I'm going to add some darker darks into the mane, just some little detail things, like around the ear. Kind of closer to the face a little bit. And then I'll go ahead and add the eye. In there as well. I'm going to let that dry and add some of the final details like the whiskers and things like that. All right? So the last thing I'm doing is taking my Posca pen here, and adding in some little details for some of the whiskers on the lion, and a little bit of white in some areas like right around the eye, little highlights in the eye, and that's about it. Thank you for watching. I'm going to go ahead and peel my tape off so you can get the completed look of the painting.